who is at fault? Who is at fault in this whole situation? Because there was things thrown around in that space as well.
Yeah.
After seemingly being 4 years removed from the public eye, Carl Lentz and Laura Lentz have sat down together in a podcast, kind of fleshing out the fallout that did happen, specifically surrounding Carl Lentz and the effects that had on his wife and the kids. Now, in today's video, we're actually going to dive into this podcast and see really just how raw and emotional this became. Guys, if you don't know what happened, Carl Lentz was the pastor over at Hillsong, New York, before the scandal came to the surface of him having multiple affairs, abusing alcohol, and having these secret sins behind closed doors. And it seemed like everything was at a loss for Carl, Laura, and their family. Nobody kind of knew what was going to happen because they went completely silent. But now they have started this new venture where they are now doing a podcast together, and they're going to be fleshing out a lot of this scandal that came up, as well as many other things, but they want to use what happened in their marriage for the glory of God. And so in this clip here, Carl is going to kind of explain his side of the darkness that he fell into.
I mismanaged my personal life. I hid things that I should not have hid. I lied about things I shouldn't have lied about. I was confused about who I was at times, didn't get any help for it. And the result was a whole lot of pain for a whole lot of people, which I will remain deeply sorry for the rest of my life. I don't live in the shame of it, but I'll never forget the impact that it had on people. And it's nobody else's fault. It's my fault. And I feel like when you're in a situation where you have made mistakes, you have two options. You could point out the window and try to find other people that are more guilty, as guilty, and you feel that need to deflect blame, or you look in the mirror.
So as we can see here, guys, Carl Lentz is owning up to everything he did. He is not trying to point the finger and look for somebody else to blame. But as he said, guys, he's looking in the mirror. He's looking at himself and going, you are the only person to blame. Pointing the finger at others is going to do nothing. I have to own up to what I've done. And what I've done is damaging to my family, my reputation, everything. Carl's then going to talk about repentance and what that truly looks like.
I can't change their minds. Big revelation for me in this chapter. What I can do is live a life of integrity and honesty. And nobody cares about what my words are when it comes to that. I don't care. You don't care what my words are. But if you're truly repentant and you're sorry about something, your words need to be said, but it'll change the way you think. And when you change the way you think, it changes the way you act. That's true repentance.
I mean, what he's saying here is talk is cheap, but people need to see action. His wife, Laura, said in this interview, guys, in this podcast, man, she needed to see actual action from him, actual fruits of repentance. Not just vocally saying, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen again, and just continuing to live in a similar lifestyle. But actually saying, listen, talk is cheap. I need to actually put this to action and work. And I need to show and prove to my family and my wife that I am serious about this, that I'm serious about our marriage, and that I am truly repentant. Guys, this is a beautiful picture of what it looks like to have biblical repentance, seeing action taken, stepping away from the ministry, stepping away from the public eye for 4 years, going to see psychiatrists and working with your wife and being there with your kids and your family and investing in them, and still not taking a ministry role. Guys, this is what biblical repentance looks like. Carl Lentz could have easily gone silent for a couple months, for half a year, and then got right back into a church and started preaching and leading a church. He could have easily started doing that just because of who he is, but he didn't do that. And then he's going to talk about what was one of the most hardest things, and that was just talking about this with his own kids.
I'm telling Charlie about what happened, and she said, thanks for telling me, Dad. I don't forgive you, and I don't know. Understandably, she's like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive you. So I hope someday you can find it in your heart to forgive me. It's not owed.
She was 14 at the time.
It's not owed. It's not expected. But she looked at me and said, I don't know if I can ever forgive you. And the day she did was, one of my favorite days. Ava, who has a lot of your spirit, forgave me right away, hugged me and said, there's going to be a lot that comes from this, but Dad, I forgive you. And Roman, I don't know if he's ever vocalized yet that he has forgiven me. So this is a work in progress. I mean, we're tighter than we've ever been, but he's unable to talk about this. As we record this pod, he is our child that has processed it the most internal. And it's starting to come out, and I'm looking forward to that, being fruitful and healthy. But man, it's hard when I look back on it, but I'm so, so, so grateful.
As you can see, guys, what an emotional thing for a father to look at his kids and say, listen, I have committed these sins against your mom, against this family. Hey, listen, I don't deserve forgiveness. I'm not expecting you to forgive me, but this is the reality, and this is something that I've done, and I have to own up to it. And his kids just having different responses. One really just taking a little while to flesh it out and then eventually forgiving him. The other one immediately forgiving him. And then his son, who is still yet to actually say he's forgiven his dad. This is raw things. And now Laura's going to, at the end of this podcast, kind of press Carl with this question that I think everybody seems to be asking as well.
One thing I don't understand, how can you stand up? How can you stand there and preach on a stage every week, knowing that you're holding so many secrets, so many, sins, lies, all of that? Like, how do you do that?
Very difficult question, and I understand it. The way I can articulate living a life where you have that kind of secrecy, it is torture for the person living, me, and it's torture for the people that are not in the know.
Guys, this is a heavy question. This question comes with great weight. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, Carl says, it comes with torture for the person who's keeping it and torture for the person who has no idea about it. Carl Lentz being in the stage he was in, the platform that he had, probably in his mind thinking, listen, if this comes out, who knows what is going to happen. So let me just keep this a secret. And we ultimately all know that as we continue to hide sin, it just gets worse. And that's exactly what happened to Carl. And guys, eventually the truth does come out, and it is exposed, and it is revealed. And this is exactly what happened with Carl. He was trying to hide the sin, suppress all these things, push it down, not let it come out. And then it came out. The fear that he had the most. So guys, we should be extremely encouraged that Carl Lentz has this humility, that you can genuinely see it and hear it in his voice, that he has truly repented of this sin, of these sins, and that his life is no longer a reflection of that. And it's a beautiful thing to see him and his wife use this broken thing that happened for the glory of the Lord. And we should be praying that this would help others speak out on maybe secret sins that they're keeping from their loved ones as well. But guys, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the BTteam Ministry YouTube channel, as well as drop a like and leave a comment down below. I would love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this video, you might like this one over here.